Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host, Sean McGahee, and this is a show we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. On today's show, I'm talking one thing and one thing only, that's Marvel's The Defenders. That's right, all 8 episodes of the series premiered on Netflix on Friday. I myself actually took the day off on Friday and spent most of my day watching The Defenders. I got through it about Friday night. And now I'm going to sit and talk about it. So usually how I do this, guys, as you know, with anybody who's listened to my season reviews, I go and I'm taking notes as I watch it, kind of episode by episode. And then I just go through episode briefly, talk about theories I had or questions or moments or quotes that I had while watching each episode. I don't spend a lot of time on each episode, so it goes pretty quickly. But let's just get into it, guys. Let's just go for it and go from there. So The Defenders is the culmination of 4 shows on Netflix: Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist. Much like Marvel in their big screen movie adaptations, they took separate characters like Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, and brought them together for the Avengers. And they had the same idea to do this for the Defenders, which I thought was a great idea. Daredevil and Iron Fist are 2 of my favorite characters in the Marvel comic book world, so I was excited to see them not only on screen but in this setting of TV, because I am more of a TV guy than I am movies. I love that you get more in depth with the characters because you spend more time with them. I think you get more invested in the characters as well. So again, I was excited for this to come about. Overall, for the Defenders, I liked it. I really got to give credit. I knew I was going to like it though, because I heard that the guys who actually did, Daredevil, Douglas Petrie and Marco Ramirez, they're producers on the first 2 seasons of Daredevil, and I knew they were behind this, so I figured it's got to at least be decent, because Daredevil I really liked. As far as the other ones, I really liked the first season of Jessica Jones. Luke Cage was half and half for me, and then Iron Fist was a disappointment, as it was for a lot of people. So I was kind of hoping that this show would redeem Daredevil or Iron Fist a little bit. I'll get into that here pretty soon. But overall, I really enjoyed it. There were a couple episodes, there's the first couple episodes where they're checking in with everyone and what they've been through, and people will say it kind of dragged a little, and then you got to the action, and then there are a couple episodes where, again, it's kind of a lull, and then you get to the action episodes. And, I mean, really, if you look at it as a movie, that's kind of what it is, where you have setup, action scene, more setup for the finale, then the finale, stuff like that. So the fact that people thought it dragged on, whatever, I thought it was fine. I actually enjoyed those first couple episodes where you got to check in with everybody and see them slowly come together. It made episodes 3 and 4, where they all actually were fighting together, that much more enjoyable, because they did such a good job setting everything up. Okay, so let's start off with the episode 1, the H word. In this one, pretty much, like I said, it's a check-in to see where all of our heroes are at. Starting off, we had Jessica Jones. When we left her at the end of season 1 of Jessica Jones, she had killed Kilgrave, her nemesis, and a lot of people saw it and were kind of hailing her as a hero, so she was getting a lot of calls for people wanting to help him. But Jessica has never thought of herself as a hero. She doesn't want to be thought of as a hero. So in that regard, she's just, pretty much avoiding everything until this case comes on where she doesn't want to take it. It's a missing persons case, and she doesn't want to take it at first, but then someone calls her and tells her not to take the case. So, of course, in true Jessica Jones style, she decides to take the case. With Luke, he's getting out of prison. I love the scene there where he's with Foggy. Little taste of all these worlds colliding when you see Luke and Foggy together. Great line where he's walking out and Foggy's like, "People call me Foggy," and Luke's like, "You let them?" Great line. I thought it was pretty funny. Again, just kind of seeing the heroes intertwine with each other. Danny's on the hunt for the hand. He is trying to figure out what happened with Kung Lung. At the end of the Iron Fist series, it was gone. He's trying to figure out where it's at, and to be honest, I think at the end of Defenders. I'm still trying to figure out where it's at, but again, something we're going to get to later here. But him and Colleen have been hunting the Hand, and they get jumped by this mysterious woman who pretty much kicks Danny's ass. We don't know who she is. If you've seen the trailers and know what's to come, I'm pretty sure you all guessed who it was. But at the time, the heroes don't know who it is. And then we jump over to Matt. Matt looks like he's doing okay for himself. He's suffered a tragedy. He's lost Elektra. And he's trying to be just Matt Murdock, lawyer. And looks like he's doing a pretty good job of it. He gets that settlement money for the disability kid. And, has some good words of encouragement for him. So he's doing pretty good for himself. I like it. I like where everyone is at when the series kicks off. Very early on in the episode 2, we meet our villain, Alexandra. And I think it's very, I don't want to say smart or maybe odd. The first time we meet her is a scene where you find out she's dying. And to do that, kind of to hone in and have us sympathize with that character very early on, I think is a little odd, but, I liked it. I love the scenes, though, with her just kind of starting off. You see her sitting in the park feeding the pigeons, kind of rethinking her life. And Madame Gao, a character we're very familiar with from Daredevil and Iron Fist, comes up and, starts talking to her. And Alexander tells her that they're going to sell the plans. Obviously, we as an audience know because she's dying and she wants to do whatever plans she has as fast as possible. But the thing about this scene I liked is Madame Gao, we've seen in the previous series, is a character who is very in control. She's somewhat menacing. She really answers to no one. But then Alexander's like, here, feed the pigeons. And that right there is an indicator that Alexander is someone who even scares Madame Gao, or someone who Gao even listens to. So we as the audience, start to think we should be afraid of her. And then the big earthquake happens. The earth shakes, so to speak, and all the heroes feel it. I like probably Matt's reaction to it the most, because he wants to go help. He wants to go put on the suit possibly and go help. He can hear all the people crying for help afterwards. And he's very tempted to, put on the Daredevil suit and go help. But instead, we see in episode 2, he actually just goes out as himself and tries to do a little good in the world. And then, of course, at the end of this episode, we see the big reveal, which is Elektra. She's not dead. She's alive. And looks like she is on Alexandra's side. And, of course, we get to more of that in the next episode. Alright, so episode 2, The Mean Right Hook. It's post-earthquake. We see the heroes dealing with it afterwards, trying to help people mainly. Trish, what's her name? Trish Walker, I believe. Jessica's best friend, is on her radio show. And I guess she gets a caller saying that it wasn't an earthquake. It was something different. But before she could go too much into it, her higher-ups cut her off. So we're not quite sure exactly what it is, but we get the sense that the Hand is behind something a little bit more sinister. Jumping over to Harlem with Luke Cage. He's, helping clean up the mess. Him and Claire are helping people that were wounded or injured and stuff like that. And Claire kind of starts talking to Luke about the idea of what he's going to do now that he's out of prison. And all Luke wants to do is help people, but Claire's kind of, trying to get it through his mind that he can't, just be Harlem's hero. He has to earn a living. And I think, to me, this is all setting up what we hope is later down the road, which is Heroes for Hire, which is the agency that he and Danny set up. And, of course, we'll see more of the Danny-Luke interaction in this episode even. Later in this episode, we get to see some of that. Jumping over to Alexandra in this episode, we see her sitting there listening to the music, and she's talking actually about these old composers, Beethoven and Brahms, and we start to get the sense that Alexandra might be a little older than Sigourney Weaver's actual age. So you kind of sense maybe she's been brought back to life, like Elektra, or what's the villain in Iron Fist? McCullum or whatever the guy's. Yeah, the main guy in Iron Fist. He was brought back to life and older than you think, and even Nobu from Daredevil, he's been brought back to life as well. It's also in this episode that I started to realize the colors. Now, if you talk to Jeff Loeb, who was one of the executive producers and head of Marvel Television, he did an interview a while back where he's talking about the colors for each series, where Daredevil you mainly deal with reds, Jessica's purples, Luke's is yellows, and Iron Fist is green. Well, in this episode, when everyone's kind of standing around in their offices or their homes and stuff like that, for me, I really started to notice the colors where, Matt's apartment is red, Jessica's office is yellow, Luke's apartment is yellow, or, when he's out on the street, he's under the yellow streetlights, and then Danny, when he's in the dojo, it's green, and I started to notice the colors, and I thought it was really cool, how they brought that out to represent each character. At the end of the episode, Jessica calls in a something she found while working her missing persons case, which she runs into Misty Knight with that, and that leads into an altercation where Misty arrests Jessica, and who comes to her aid but none other than Matt Murdock via Foggy Nelson. So that's a little something. They started to tease at the end, and then, of course, we get more of that in the next episode. The big meat, I think, of course, was with Danny and Luke. We see Danny running down the leads for the hand, and the cleanup crew is the kid that Luke's been following, so they run into each other, and Danny and Luke get into a fight, and it's, pretty one-sided because Danny can't hurt Luke until he breaks out the Iron Fist and actually punches Luke back into a wall, which I thought was a great scene there. And this episode ends with another kind of tease where we see that Alexandra has none other than Stick himself, the mentor of Matt Murdock and Elektra, and we see more of what happens in the next episode after that. Alright, moving on. Episode 3, Worst Behavior. This episode starts with the origin story of Elektra's resurrection. We see how Alexandra resurrects Elektra, and then what she put her through as far as training, thinking that she is the Black Sky. Of course, her partners are all a little worried because the stuff that brings them back to life and keeps them alive, she's using the last of what they have on Elektra because she believes that the Black Sky is going to lead them to more of the substance that will give them immortal life. Cut to present day, of course, we see Alexandra and Stick and Elektra together, and Stick, being the resourceful guy he does, has managed to escape, but not before cutting off his hand. Just kind of reaffirming this character ever since Daredevil. This guy's willing to do whatever it takes to win his war, and that includes cutting off his own hand to escape. Skipping over to Luke's apartment, we see Claire and Luke, and he's icing his face after his hit from the Iron Fist. And of course, we learn that Claire knows who the Iron Fist is and get Danny and Luke to meet up. Something really good. One thing about this series, I'll go ahead and say I still wasn't a fan of the portrayal of Danny Rand in this series. I don't like the way they've handled the character in the Netflix world, or the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I guess officially, is what it is. He's not the Danny Rand he should be from the comics. He's a little whiny. Okay, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to get to more of that later on when he really starts to bug the crap out of me. So Danny and Luke are talking, and it's a very interesting conversation. I think, what's his name, Finn Jones as Danny Rand, his parts work the best when he's having conversations with Luke. I think it's probably the best scenes, their interaction with each other. And I've said from the beginning, the time they started this, when they were casting, you had to cast Jessica, Luke, and Danny all very carefully because, of course, in the comics, Luke and Jessica eventually get married, but also Luke and Danny are best friends, going to business together. So you have to think about down the road when these things happen, or if these things happen, you got to make sure you cast the right people that are going to have good chemistry with each other. And I think Michael Coulter and Finn Jones do have great chemistry. Like I said, Finn Jones as Danny Rand, the scenes where he was in talking to Luke Cage are probably my favorite scenes of Danny in the series. I love how he mentions, how he got the Iron Fist, and he's like, quote, "There was a dragon." pretty funny stuff there. In this episode, of course, we all, come together at Midland Circle Financial. Danny goes to try to talk business-wise to the Hand. Matt and Jessica are led to their missing persons case via Midland Circle. And then Luke, I'm not sure exactly how Luke gets there. Maybe he's following Danny. Not sure, I forget. But they all end up there. And of course, there's that very intricate conversation at the beginning there where Danny goes and he meets Alexander for the first time. And she says, "I've crossed paths with Iron Fist before. I won't kill you, though." So right up there, we know that she needs Danny or the Iron Fist. And then, of course, we go into the fight sequence, which is really just awesome. We see, Matt and Jessica throw in the mix. They're all fighting the guys. Elektra goes in there, and of course, there is that brief second where Matt senses that this is Elektra and that she doesn't actually kill him. So, there's that hope right there to go for. But that episode, again, the way they all came together, the build-up of the first two episodes to this episode was just great. I liked it a lot, and I love how they all came together. Really good stuff. All right, moving on to episode 4, Royal Dragon, named after the restaurant that they go to after fighting off Alexandra and the Hand. They're there to kind of lay low, and Danny pays off the store owner or the restaurant owner by buying him and paying his rent for 6 months. So he brings him food, and this is the time for the heroes to sit down and chat and kind of swap stories. But of course, Matt likes to leave out the fact that he knew the woman who attacked them, which they find out later on. Also, Matt doesn't want to join the group. And this goes into, he's still not only a little devastated from what happened at the end of Daredevil Season 2 with the Hand and losing Elektra, but he's also building that life for himself. He's a lawyer doing a good job helping people in different ways. In the last episode, or episode 2, I believe it was, Foggy gives him a whole caseload of good people who need help to try to keep him busy so that he's not out at night being Daredevil and getting himself in danger. But Danny also sees this as something that he and Colleen were talking about in the previous episodes, where they need more help. It's just the two of them hunting down the Hand. They need more help than just them. And Danny kind of gets the idea that maybe these people can help him with his quest. And then, of course, Stick pops in. It's great. I swear, anytime Stick pops in, it's great. I love Scott Glenn as the character. He does such a great job with his character, making him so entertaining to watch. Like the Daredevil episodes that are my favorites are the ones with Stick in them. He does makes his characters really pop out of the screen. I love what he does with them. And of course, I love the line where he's talking about the Iron Fist, where he's protector of the ancient city is still a thundering dumbass, which I think we can all agree Danny is pretty much a dumbass. So, of course, they all talk, and they kind of all spill, Stick kind of lets them know what it's all about, where it's been for, a while, where the Hand are these 5 people that got kicked out of the ancient city of Kung Lung, and, they've been around for many, many years. And of course, Jessica's not buying all this bullshit. She thinks it's stupid. And that's kind of what it is. Because we've seen Matt and Danny deal with the Hand and these mysterious things in their series. But Jessica and Luke are still those street-level heroes. They haven't dealt with this kind of organization or this kind of mystic stuff. So they're not really believing what Stick is saying to them. Jessica ends up leaving. Luke tries to catch her. And you have your little scene between them, of course, always hinting that there is a future for these characters, which, by the way, because of their possible future and the fact that Claire was the one that was the kind of the connecting tissue between all these characters, it was under my impression at the beginning of the series that actually she was going to die. I mean, Agent Coulson was the connective tissue between all the heroes in the movies. And, of course, we know what happened to the Avengers. I'm not going to mention Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because I don't watch it. I think it's stupid. So, to me, it doesn't exist. But I thought Claire was going to be the sacrificial lamb, much like Coulson was, that was going to be the battle cry for these heroes to come together. So Jessica leaves, and in doing more investigation, she finds out that all this digging that she's done all the way back to 1820, the person who signed all these documents is actually the same person with all the same handwriting. So she figures that out, and then of course she gets pulled back in at the end, goes back to the restaurant just when they need her because Alexandra showed up with the hand, and they're all fighting. I do love the little line though. In the episode where Jessica's like, "Am I the only one who doesn't know karate?" Of course, getting pulled into this world and all these martial artists. It's a good line, definitely. Moving on to episode 5, Take Shelter. We're still in the Royal Dragon fighting. Elektra shows up. You got Matt versus Elektra. He's trying to isolate her, maybe try to talk some sense into her. And pretty much the guys, they make it out. And Luke even captures one of the fingers of the hand. And they begin to interrogate him. I love the line, though, again. Just he's talking. It's Sawade, I think is the guy's name. He's talking to Danny. He's like, "You're the dumbest Iron Fist yet." And again, I'm going to talk about it here soon. I'm going to have to agree with him on that. Luke goes back, and they start gathering everyone. All the supporting characters like Trish, Karen, Foggy, Misty, all the people they care about, they're trying to protect because they know the hand is going to come for them. So they all go, and Misty's watching over them in the police station. So again, one of the best parts is seeing all these, not only the main characters, but all the supporting characters collide, and especially some that we know are going to have a possible future together, which, again, I'm going to get to in a minute. So there is a moment, too, where Stick takes Matt aside and kind of basically says that he needs to be the leader of the group. He says, quote, "The Iron Fist can't lead them like you can." Of course, I'm not sure if this has to do with the fact that I think no one that I know of has said they don't like Daredevil, but Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, there are people I know that don't like those series. So it could be a reaction to that, but I think it could be just the natural progression where Matt has, been training to be a warrior his whole life. He's been doing this whole hero thing longer than the other characters as well. He's got a stronger core, I think, than some of them. So that maybe that's why Stick is also choosing him. But I think it seems natural. It also has to do with Matt's journey in this season to where he's trying to fight not being Daredevil. He doesn't want to put the suit back on. He wants to live a normal life helping people, but that's just not possible. And then, of course, this is the first episode we see where he does finally put on the suit and actually become Daredevil, kind of embracing who he needs to be for the city and also this group. Now, at the end of the episode, Sawade, we see, actually gets out and threatens to take Danny, because that's what it's all about, as we learned. They want the Iron Fist to open some gate at the bottom of Midland Circle Financial, which was the big hole we saw in Daredevil Season 2 that Elektra and Matt were checking out. And Stick, of course, in very much Stick fashion, doesn't fuck around. He just like, "Okay, you're bothering me," and just slices his head off in true Stick fashion, which is great. I love it. It's why I love the character so much. And then we end the episode with Elektra at Matt's apartment. Now, we see that in earlier episodes and throughout the series, Matt is all about saving Elektra. Even to the very end of the series, or season, he's all about saving Elektra. And in these first couple episodes where they meet, she hesitates with him because she's the one person she loves. She's the one person she cares about before she even died, and it's getting to her. And she goes to Matt's apartment to remember all these things, and it's starting to get to her. Alexandra has pretty much lost the black sky, even though in the next episode we find out she's lying to her companions about that. Episode 6, Ashes to Ashes. With this one, episode 5 and episode 6 are very much slow down episodes, where much like episodes 1 and 2, you got kind of set up for what was to come in episode 3 and 4. And then 5 and 6, you're getting the setup for the next couple episodes, which is 7 and 8, kind of explaining everything, moving the story along to get to those action sequences in the other episodes. And in this one, we kind of see the heroes start to turn against each other, or at least Danny does. And this is kind of what pisses me off. So we find out that the Hand wants Danny. We find out what he wants him for. And Stick's instinct is to get him away, and everyone agrees they need to hide Danny. But Danny wants to fight. He doesn't want it, so he starts to turn against them. We see a battle between him and Matt. A few of the others are in the mix as well, where they eventually defeat Danny and get him tied up to try to stop him from escaping. I hate how they make Danny Rand a little bitch in this world, okay? Granted, yes, he's starting off, okay? He's still young, he's learning stuff, but the Iron Fist, even back, years ago with the Immortal Iron Fist, which is where I started to really like the character, he's not like that. He's not, he's much more fun, I guess, as a character. He likes to crack jokes. Sure, he knows he has this serious power, this serious mission, and, he doesn't take it, he's got to, lighten up a little bit. And maybe we'll see that, in Season 2 of Iron Fist and down the line. But he is just a little bitch. And it pisses me off because Iron Fist is one of my favorite Marvel characters. And I don't think it's thin as much as the way they're writing the character. Now, maybe this is who they need the character to be for these storylines. But to me, it just makes him so unlikable. It's stupid. They make him stupid. I hate it. I don't like it. I really like Iron Fist, and it makes me ashamed that right now I'm wearing my Iron Fist shirt. I'm about to go out, and I'm like, God, I wish my Daredevil shirt was actually clean and I could wear that instead. But there you go. I really hope in coming up they improve Iron Fist, which, again, there's a tease at the end of the last episode. Makes me hope that they will. So, with the interaction of the characters, okay, so I got my 2 cents in about Danny. All the other characters, I love, though. I loved Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Matt Murdock. I loved the way they interacted with each other. I loved, what it was. One thing, probably a highlight for me in this episode, kind of highlighted, was Jessica and Matt. Maybe it's the actors and, with their chemistry or the way how good these two actors are. But I love the scenes, the way they were talking to each other, the way they interacted with each other. It just really popped, and I love what they did. Really great stuff there. Also, you got more conversations with Luke and Danny. And talking about that, again, like I said earlier, when Danny and Luke were talking, I didn't hate Iron Fist. Which is good, considering I hope that, what my hope is that they just say, okay, forget Luke Cage Season 2 and Iron Fist Season 2, which I know is what they're going to do anyway. I'd rather just have a straight-up Heroes for Hire season. Just go straight off into that. And then, of course, you could do couple other spin-offs that I'll talk about as well with other characters. But I'd much rather, I think next you have Punisher, and then you have a Jessica Jones Season 2. I don't want to see a Luke Cage Season 2 or an Iron Fist Season 2. I want to see a Heroes for Hire. That's what I want to see, because these characters, I think, work really well, especially Danny, when they're interacting with each other. So I'd much rather see them together as a series than separately. One of the interactions, of course, is they're talking to each other, and Luke makes the comment that I'd face a dragon over Jessica any day. Just kind of, again, let you know how he feels about Jessica and all that stuff. Matt, of course, and Jessica finds the thing in the piano, and I love, again, the reaction between Jessica and Matt in this episode, how they play off each other is great. Matt is playing the piano, and he hears the little ding or whatever, and he's, he finds it, and they're like, how'd you know about that? And Jessica just kind of rolls her eyes, and it's just hilarious. The little interaction that Kristen Ritter does and how she plays off the other characters, not just Matt, but also Michael Coulter's Luke Cage. I wasn't sure about her when she started the role of Jessica Jones, but now I'm sure she does a great job with the character, exactly what she needs to be. It's a good job. Full props to her. So we skip to the last part of the episode, and Stick makes Luke pass out with some herbs because he knows that he's got to do what they won't, which is take out Danny because otherwise the Hand's never going to stop hunting for him. Eventually they'll get to him, and then it'll all, be over for everyone, and New York will fall, blah, blah, blah. Before he does it, though, Elektra shows up and takes him out and kills Stick herself. This is kind of a big moment. Stick, I guess, became the mentor character when he popped up in episode 4. He's always been the mentor character for Matt, and he's always been the mentor for Elektra. We find out in Daredevil season 2. So her killing her mentor, of course, it has that whole plotline ramifications, especially since she tried to kill him already in season 2 of Daredevil. And that kind of carries out throughout. She takes Danny, and it looks like doom and gloom for our team. So now we're at episode 7, Fish in the Jailhouse. That's right, we're back to the action episodes. Everything is set up here. Now, I did forget to mention, of course, at the very end, Elektra, at this one, kills Alexandra. Boom. At this point, she is no longer the Black Sky, what Alexandra wants her to be. She's also not the Elektra we know from Daredevil season 2. She is a hybrid of both, and she is a mean bitch who decides she has the power to take over and run the Hand. And she continues Alexandra's mission, where she wants to, keep living forever, much as they have, and she knows that, she's going to continue Alexandra's mission and use Danny to continue to do that. Also at this time, everyone, Luke, Jessica, and Matt, are all gathered on the crime scene. They find Suade's body, they find Stick's body, and they're all getting questioned about what's going on. The good thing that's going on is that, of course, the cops still believe that Matt is blind, so they're giving him all this credits, thinking, Luke and Jessica are the problem and stuff like that. So you have all this going on. Some really good moments, especially with Matt and Foggy and Karen in this, where Foggy realizes that whatever's going on, Matt needs to put the suit back on and be Daredevil because he's starting to realize this is who he is. And again, this is something that he has to tell Karen as well, where he says, Karen, this is my life. Matt can't, he's too important or too good at what he does to just sit by and, let it happen. It's, kind of like quoting Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Matt realizes he has the ability to help people, not only in the courtroom, but also outside the courtroom, so he has to do this, something that he believes in. So they go off into battle, they break out, the cops are looking for him, they need to lay low, but they have to get all the way to Midland Circle Financial, and all this tension and drama, what do? They go and they give us a little comical moment where they ride the train all the way there. Jessica even drinks a beer on the way there, so again, just something comical to get you there. It's really just a good scene. I liked it a lot. By this time, Elektra's got Danny down in the hole, and she leads him to the door where she's talking about how it's a door that the previous Iron Fist had sealed, so only Danny can open it, and she's trying to get Danny to come over to her side, but of course it's not working, and they begin to fight. And up above, while she's fighting Danny, we got the other 3 fingers, because the 2 fingers are dead. The other fingers of the Hand face off against the Defenders. Colleen shows up to try to help them, and they scare him off, so they do a really good job of fighting off the fingers. But it's too late because Elektra has tricked Danny throughout the fight into opening up the seal. The fingers come down, and we see what's going on. Is the hole is a seal for Xiaolo, which is the dragon that Danny faced off against, or one of them at least. And this door has sealed the bones of Xiaolo. So we come to find out that what that in the door is the dragon, and how they make the substance, how the Hand makes the substance so they can live forever, is the bones of Xiaolo. So essentially, Danny's power and the Hand's power of immortality pretty much is the same thing. So that leads us to episode 8, the final episode of the season. Colleen and Claire are there, as well as Misty showing up too, and they're all about ready to, do it. Bring down the hand. Luke, Jessica, and Matt are all going to go down the hole to try to get Danny, while Claire and Colleen try to blow up the building, pretty much, and bring it all down on top of them. So there's a quote before Luke leaves. He says, "I'll be back, Claire. I promise." Now, at this point, I'm not sure because, I had that little theory about how I felt like Claire was going to die. And at this point, I could see it being Claire. I could see it being Colleen. I could even see it being one of the actual heroes, even though I know, they're not actually going to die because they're going to live on. So I got that. They go to the hole. They're fighting off against the hand. And I got to tell you, I got a serious Ninja Turtles vibe. Just like at the end of the first 1990 movie, where they're fighting the Foot Clan on the rooftops and throughout New York, you have these four heroes fighting the hand. And if you talk to the creators of Ninja Turtles, I know a little bit of history about how they came up with the idea. A lot of it had to do with inspiration from Daredevil, where Splinter is kind of, they got the idea from Daredevil's mentor Stick. The Foot Clan is, a ripoff almost of the Hand. So you see the similarities, and I'm seeing they're fighting, and I'm just like, oh my god, I feel like I'm watching that 1990s Ninja Turtle movie, which is awesome, by the way. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it, because it's amazing. So in the end, Gal slips off kind of by herself, so we know she's going to come back. And then above, we see, I forget what his name is, Colleen's former sensei, face off, and her and Claire and Misty are fighting him, and he ends up taking off Misty's arm. Boo-hoo, that stinks. But they end up defeating him, and, they're ready to blow up the building. They're just waiting for Luke and everyone to get up there. But Matt says he's not going. He's going to face off with Elektra. He still loves her. He still cares about her. He still, wants to try and save her, even though she's pretty much become this homicidal maniac. But the thing I like about this relationship too, especially Elektra at this point, is at this point she's become the Elektra that I know from the comics, where I always compare her to Catwoman in Batman, okay? Batman's always trying to bring out the good in Catwoman, even though she's a villain. And that's just kind of the same relationship that they have, where Elektra doesn't really care about being good or being bad. She's just kind of there. She'll do good stuff, and she'll do bad stuff. It all depends on what's in her best interest, really, and what she thinks is going to benefit her, or the people she cares about. Because she does care about Matt. She does care about him, so she will do good stuff if it's for the benefit of Matt. Another thing is that my friend Aaron, he wasn't a big fan of Luke Cage or Jessica Jones. He didn't even start Iron Fist, but he's a fan of Daredevil. And I told him, if you like Daredevil, definitely watch The Defenders. Because of the storyline with Elektra and Matt, that storyline alone, even though there's other stuff going on in this series, I think that storyline alone, if you're just a fan of Daredevil, is enough to carry on. Because I think even though Danny was the MacGuffin, the thing that kept the story going, and his part in all this, I still think it's Matt's the main character. He's the one at the end that's, trying to be the hero and chug things along. So Matt and Elektra, the bomb goes off. Matt and Elektra get buried, and we think that's the end of it. Really great scene at the end there, where you still have all the supporting characters that are in the police station. And Luke comes in, and Jessica comes in, and they all come in, and they see Foggy and Karen looking for Matt. And they keep going back to it several times. It's a great job. The cinematography and the way this series was shot, I loved it. Great cinematography on all of this. But he doesn't show it. They just show an empty doorway. And I gotta say, I started to choke up a little bit. It was a great scene. You felt their pain. It was really, really great shot. I really liked that scene. So there's another scene in the hospital with Colleen's kind of been looking over Misty. I don't know if those two, they're starting to form a bond, but I'll go ahead and tell you that in the comic books, they do, actually. They start kind of their own business like Luke and Danny does, Heroes for Hire. They start Daughters of the Dragon, and Misty actually gets a robotic arm from Tony Stark. Although in this one we kind of get the hint that Danny's actually going to hook her up with an arm besides Colleen. So that's what I'm saying. I'd love to see a Daughters of the Dragon series now. Misty and Colleen seem to have a relationship. Give me that series, and then give me Heroes for Hire. And more than that, give me a crossover, because those 4 characters are very tight. They help each other out a lot. So give me a series even with just those 4, and I will be happy for that. I would love that. Especially, I think, now that Misty, I don't think she's going to go back to the police. I think she's going to start to do her own thing. Colleen's going to help her, and then maybe Luke and Danny can help her as well. Okay, last 2 things I want to talk about. You have the shot at the end there with Danny. He's on the rooftop, his hands glowing, and you can see that he's really been inspired by Matt, by the things Matt has done, the things that he's told them, and you get the sense that Danny might take over as protector of Hell's Kitchen, because he's sitting there in very like a Daredevil pose, Daredevil fashion, which is interesting because there was a time when the people suspected Matt Murdock of being Daredevil, and to throw him off the scent, so to speak, Iron Fist actually posed as Daredevil for a little while. So that is a little callback right there in that scene. That's the first thing that made me think of when I saw that scene. So okay, final scene. We have Matthew Murdock. Looks like he survived, and he's surrounded by nuns. So, if anybody knows anything about Matt's mother, we know in the comic books that she left and became a nun. But that scene is by itself. I posted this picture on the Dayspring Discussions Twitter and Facebook site yesterday. That scene is pretty much an exact shot of a panel from the shot Born Again, which is a storyline where Karen actually becomes a heroin addict and sells Matt's identity to Kingpin for some smack, and then Kingpin goes and completely ruins Matt financially, physically, to where he gets put up in a convent. His own mother, who's a nun, finds him, saves him, nurses him back to health, and then Matt goes back to take his life, so to speak. So that is pretty much a callback and almost an idea of maybe that's what we're going to see in season 3 of Daredevil, where Matt has to, rejoin his life again. And of course, if Matt's alive, it's a sure bet that Elektra's alive. I hope she is. It's always a big part of Daredevil's storyline. I don't want to see her in season 3, but I want to see her in season 4 or even other series, maybe even Iron Fist down the road. And that's it, guys. That is The Defenders, all 8 episodes. I really enjoyed the series. I might go back and rewatch it, at some point. But again, my biggest pet peeve is how they treated Iron Fist in all this. That's not the Iron Fist I know. That's not the one we should get. I think he's a much better character than what they're doing for this world. And I'm hoping that the shot of him at the end maybe shows that we're going to get a little bit different Danny when we pick up, down the line, I guess. So, but that's it, guys. Hopefully by now you've had a chance to check out the series. If not, I just spoiled everything for you. Sorry. So hit me up and let me know what you thought. What were your likes, your dislikes? What were your highlights, scenes, highlight characters? Let me know. Hit me up, dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com, or on the Facebook group, or on Twitter. Let me know on that, guys. So until next time, may the Force be with us all.